Hello, God's people. Today's topic is free love. Let's start today off with reading a passage from the book of James, chapter 3, verse 13 to verse 18. Who is a wise man and endued with knowledge from among you? Let him show out of good conversation his works with meekness and wisdom. But if ye have bitter envying and strife in your hearts, glory not, and line out against the truth. This wisdom descendeth not from above, but is earthly, sensual, and devilish. For where envying and strife is, there is confusion and every evil work. From the wisdom that is from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, and easy to be entreated, full of mercy and good fruits, without partiality, without hypocrisy. And the fruit of righteousness is sown in peace of them that make peace. So, let's focus today on how free love is going to change the world as we know it, particularly with our relationships. That's the focus of today's topic. So, Yeshua actually did answer to this, but it was revealed in a way that is largely confused by most people. Unfortunately, they allow their envy to confuse this topic, and I'll explain why after I read this verse. In the book of St. Mark, the Gospel of St. Mark, chapter 12, starting at verse 25. Actually, go ahead and start at verse 24. But before that, a brief synopsis. Someone came to Yeshua saying that there was a situation with brothers taking the wife of the previous brother who had died, as was Jewish tradition, that when a man dies, that his wife should go to his next eldest brother, and so on and so forth. Well, there were 7 brothers, and they died in succession of one another, and the wife was passed on to 6 different brothers successively, and they asked, since they had all been with this one wife, all 7 of them, which one of them would be allowed to continue to be their husband, which would have this one woman as their wife in heaven. And this is how Yeshua answered them. He said, "Do ye not therefore err?" Don't make a mistake, he says. "Because you know not the Scriptures, you don't know the Scriptures, neither the power of God." This is a question he was asking them. "For when they shall rise from the dead during the resurrection, they will neither marry nor be given in marriage, but are as the angels which are in heaven. And as touching the dead, that they rise, have ye not read in the book of Moses, how the bush of God spake to him, saying, I am the God of Abraham, and the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob? He is not the God of the dead, but the God of the living. And ye therefore do greatly err." You are making a big mistake by thinking that God is the God of the dead. He's not. He's the God of the living. So it's something to consider. But what does he mean by not being given in marriage? Well, he describes that when he says, "but are as the angels in heaven." That might even be a little bit confusing to you when considering that there's only one verse in the entire Torah which talks about marriage and angels in the same breath. And we're going to read that too. Because it says in the book of Genesis, chapter 6, and verse 2, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, and they were fair, and they took them wives, all which they chose. Notice it didn't say one for each of them either. Be mindful of that. It says, and they took them wives, all which they chose. Sons of God is a reference to the angels of God, those who from heaven to earth came. You might also know them as the Anunnaki if you reference them through Sumerian lore. But nonetheless, they're one and the same. Angels of God, sons of God, those in heaven who came to earth. Well, they took upon themselves the daughters of men to be their wives, not necessarily out of marriage, but as sexual partners and mothers of their children, because those women bore giants. And that's how this occurred. Well, that's just so that you're mindful that angels aren't eunuchs. They're capable of sexual reproduction. They have sexual desires. But it is the ways of heaven to not be given in marriage, to not bind oneself to a contract of love. There's no contract of love. Actually, on the contrary. Now, I'm going to go ahead and turn back to Mark, and we're going to examine that. Because it's really important that we see that this is discussed specifically. It's discussed specifically after this question. Because I'm going to read on, and it says, "And the scribes came to him, having heard him reasoning together, perceiving that he had answered them well. Then they asked him, which is the first commandment of all?" They knew what he meant. Most Christians might not know what he meant by what he said about not being given in marriage, but being as the angels in heaven. But I believe the rabbis did. The Pharisees did in this case. So they wanted him to be specific so that everyone understood what he meant, at least those who had the initiated knowledge. And Yeshua answered them, "First of all the commandments is, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord," one God. "And thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all of thy mind, and with all of thy strength. This is the first commandment. And the second is just like it, namely this, Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. And there is no other commandment greater than these. Love thy neighbor as thyself." So rather than being possessive of the man or woman that you're with, put marriage out of your mind. Put your possessiveness out of your mind. Put your cultural ideologies when it comes to your romantic relationship behind you, and place the two commandments in the forefront: to love God with everything you are, with all that you are, and to love your neighbor as you love yourself. All those things and people which you think you possess then are easily shared with those around you. Understand that people also are not possessions. I mean, we don't currently have slavery in our culture, unless I'm speaking to someone in a country where that is legal. Your spouse is not your slave. The romantic partner which you've entered into an equal partnership with, they don't belong to you. They aren't your possession. I'm not asking you to share them with me. I'm asking you to allow them to share themselves with whoever they wish, because truly it's their choice to consent to whomever, to whatever they wish. So long as it's consensual and responsible, all love is accepted and no shame is permitted. These are the ways of the new kingdom. Free love in the name of our Lord. May God bless you.